All right, so it's working out. We just said question 1 was number 2. For number 2, which statement can be justified from the graph? Every gallon of gas, $3.75 was paid. Now, you can't see that explicitly on the graph, obviously, right? 3.75, you're not going to see that. But you can choose a nice number. I can choose 15 or 4 comma 15, I guess, as a coordinate, which would be choice 2. What happened? Okay. For number 3, exponential function, we saw questions kind of like this in yesterday's lesson. Week 3 versus week 5, plug in a 3, plug in a 5, subtract the 2 because it does say difference. It's about 17.06. It's about 17.06. Number 3. For number 4, which one results in a irrational number? Irrational number. Usually we're asked rational, so just read the question carefully here. The only irrational one is 2. Ethan, what's up, bud? For the mini question? Oh, the money question? Well, what? Because we're moving on. Number 4 was 1. That's the only irrational. Everything else there worked out radical. Okay. For number 5, write down the information you see. I see that it's solid. I see that it's shaded above. I see that the slope, count, rise, and run is 2 or 1. I see the y-intercept is -3. The y-intercept rules out 50% of the choices here. Shaded above, so you can figure out from there. Number 5 is choice 2. Number 5 is choice 2. When I say number 5, like it could have been something else for you, but that question. Number 6, this is a literal equation. Solve it for r. So solve it for r, you could do it in one move. Divide by pt. Divide both sides by pt. I divided by pt. Choice 3. Divide both sides by pt. R will still be remaining, and you're left with r equals I over pt. For number 7, distribute, move the 34 over, and now do CTS, kind of like a question we saw today. What else could you do here if you don't like CTS? You could expand the choices. You could do box method and see which one matches the original equation. But CTS was really the skill that they were getting at here. Okay. For number 8, what is the rate of, what does 1.02 represent? 1.02 means that there's 2% growth. Be careful if you chose like choice 2 here. 0.02% is not what it's saying. It's 0.02 as a number, which is 2%. So there's a distinction there, right? 0.02 is a number. 2% means 200ths, which is 0.02. So be careful there. I'd like to think no one put 1 or 3 here, but between 2 and 4, it's 2% growth. The zeros of the function, number 9, topic like we did today. I showed how to do it the real way. I divided out a GCF of 2, and then this is a sum product. If you did an eyeglass, that's okay, but you could have factored a GCF to make your life easier. What else we can notice is the idea that all the solutions are integers, so you can calc table this. Type it in y equals, second graph, and then look next to like 3 and -1 to verify the zeros are there. Number 9 is a good calc question, or if you look on the right, my solutions would be the quote-unquote real way. When that is subtracted from, tells me, whoop, that happened second now. Switch the order. We know about parentheses whenever we subtract to take away all of the expression, so we distribute the negative. CLT, combine like terms. You should have got x squared plus 12x minus 9. Remember, distribute the negative here. Box method, I didn't show my box, but 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. Don't just square both of the terms. Don't say 4x plus 9. Do your box method, 4x squared plus 9. Okay, questions? I know I'm going quick, but for number 11, what was this one? I don't remember this one. Joe has a rectangular patio that's 10 by 12. He wants to increase the area by 50% and plans to increase each dimension by equal lengths x. Which equation could be used to determine x? So where am I getting 180 from here? Right now, the area of his patio is 120 square feet. If he wants to increase it by 50%, 50% of 120 is 60. He really wants his patio to be 180 square feet. Okay, so right away we're down to 2 or 3. And the original dimensions were 10 and 12, and he's going to add some amount to them. So we're starting with 10, we're starting with 12, and adding some amount, and then multiplying those together to get hopefully 180 square feet. Choice 2. Choice 3, I guess, is adding, where do you get 15 and 18? Maybe adding 20% to 10 and 12 as well. Number 12, factoring completely. Start with GCF and then sum product. So a few factoring questions in this so far. We're only up to number 12 and we've seen like 2 or 3 factoring related questions. Sum product adds to negative 13, multiplies to negative 30 would be negative 15 and positive 2. Yeah. So that's where 15 and 18 came from. Thank you. We saw the, did we see this one recently? No, maybe one like it. A-Rock question, average rate. They just didn't use the full name there, but average rate of change basically. So these are annoying. You have to do every one and then choose the greatest one. The greatest one happens between 2006 and 2012. Choice 4. 1.833 inch, what is it, money? Cents per year. Okay. I'm looking at the change in Y divided by the change in X. For number 14, another CTS. What's a step in the process? We did one just like this today. You can box out all 4 choices if you really want to avoid CTS. You can type them in Y equals as long as like you move the 9 over, move the 23 over. So you could use your calculator, or if you want to actually do it the real way with CTS, the magic number here would be 16. Your bubble is going to be X minus 4 squared, and you're done. Just don't forget to add 16 to the 7 as well. So that's where the 23 comes from. Remember, the number that you add to both sides, I call it the magic number. It's not an actual name. But the number that you add to both sides is half of B, so negative 4, squared 16. It's always going to be positive. You're squaring something. 15, a construction company. What's the domain? We've seen a bunch of questions like this, but different context in everyone. Positive integers here because the domain is people. Positive real numbers would mean we could have decimal or fractional people. We obviously can't have negatives in choice 3 or 4, so those don't make any sense. People, the domain shouldn't contain decimals or be negatives. We have seen problems like this where like rational numbers were allowed. Like what was the one we did the other day? Like weight or something. There was one where we could have like decimals, the weight of some item. Yeah, it says P is the number of people. So in that case, like the input, the X value, Ethan, is people. See, it says f of p instead of like f of x. The output is money, so f of p is money. That would be the range. That would be the range. Moolah? Yeah, that would be the range is money. The domain is people. All right, 16. What's the table below? Pretty obvious that it's not linear, so I would cross off 1 and 2. We don't see a constant rate of change. So maybe you're between 3 or 4. You could calc it. Go to your table, see which table matches, or use common sense here. No zero value, okay. Or you could just notice that it's times 3. It's times 3 is times 3. That's a classic exponential, 3 to the x power. Okay, eliminate some obvious ones, and then maybe y equals if you're really unsure about that one. That should have been easy. For number 17, read carefully. What's the x value where these equal each other? You could type these into y equals, go to the table. So how many questions? I feel like every other question where like you could use y equals, you could use your calc. You could type these in y equals, go to your table, and notice that at negative 2, they both have an output of 2. So the x value of negative 2 will make them equal to each other. Now I did it algebraically on the right. You would never need to know how to do this. Absolute value equations are a little difficult because you have to consider like a negative world and a positive world. So there were actually 2 answers to this system. It was 6 and negative 2, but the only one that's there is negative 2. Recursive, we talked about the other day. Recursive, you need to identify the first term and then the pattern to go from one term to the next. So the pattern in this problem is times 2 plus 1, times 2 plus 1, times 2 plus 1. And that's what choice 3 is saying. To go from one term to the next term, you multiply by 2 and add 1. If you put choice 4, not a bad idea. It does work at first. 3 times 3 is 9, minus 2 is 7, but it fails after that because then the next number should have been 19 according to that rule. Okay, for 19, this is our worst question somehow. I don't know how. Let's rule out obvious ones. So hopefully no one put 1 or 3, right? So it was between 2 or 4. An exponential function can't equal 0. Let's say you did forget that. Type it in y equals, go to your table and scroll up and be like, oh yeah, it says 0.001, 0.0000. Remember we talked about that. There's a horizontal asymptote there. You can't actually touch 0 with an exponential function. If I said, hey, raise 5 to some power where it equals 0, you can't create anything. Even if you choose the smallest negative you can, 5 to the negative 1 billion, right? That's just going to be 1 over 5 to the billion. So it's going to be an infinitely small fraction, but it can never equal 0. Yeah, I don't know how that. I thought this was like one of the easier ones. What's the transformation? So the transformation is 1 to the left, IHOP rule, 2 down. 1 to the left, 2 down. That happens in choice 1. Might be a good idea to like choose a point and slide each one over. That's what I was doing in the purple here. So like take each given nice point and apply that rule. It's kind of hard to, this like hurts your brain like looking at it, right? But choose the points, slide them over. 1 left, plus 1 moves 1 left, minus 2 moves the 2 down. All right, 21. We've seen this question. Which one could not be used? So they're testing, do you know how to do elimination, and can you spot the mistake? The mistake happens in number 4. What's wrong with number 4 if someone was doing elimination there? What's wrong with number 4? The negative 8, because they multiplied the bottom equation by 4, but then they just left it as negative 8. So yeah. Remember I mentioned when we did this lesson, like they like to ask this question pretty frequently. 22. Which function has a minimum that is less than the one in the graph? So the first thing is, what's the minimum of the graph? You have to know what that is. It's the y value of the vertex. Basically, what's the lowest the graph gets? It's negative 7. So you have to go through the choices, either using your calculator is probably the best bet, or like common sense for some of the absolute value. The one that has a minimum smaller than negative 7 was choice 3. Its minimum was at negative 11. And you see I even wrote from my TI-84 table. The absolute value ones, you could just look at it. The minimum value is 2. The minimum value is negative 6, because that's the vertex itself. You could see the vertex in 2 and 4. Cool. And like I said, I cut this one out. This is a topic that we no longer teach in Algebra 1. They removed from the Regents, so that one's not going to work. I forgot what I put for yours. I could find it. For number 23, which one is equal difference over an equal interval? You might have been like, what is that asking? What they were basically asking is, which one has a constant rate of change? In other words, which one is linear? Which example here is linear? The only one that's linear is Roman numeral 1. Number 2, I see percent, wrong right away. Number 3, I see the word triple, that's times 3, nope. So the only one that's linear is choice 1, 3 centimeters a day, 3.5 centimeters a day, choice 1. Questions with these 23. I think I put a random equation for the last one with fractions. It was from August, hold on. The only question that you didn't notice is there's a fractional equation. It was x minus 2 over 3 plus 1/6 equals 5/6. The answer was 4. The answer to that was 4. The one with fractions. I don't know if it scrambled up the order for you guys, but if you got to the last one, the answer was 4. Because I took out this 24. All right. Do they teach it in the future? The wording was confusing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they said linear, a lot more people probably would have got it right. But think about what it's saying: equal difference over an equal interval. That's the same as saying constant rate of change. In other words, like it's +2 every time x is +5. It's +2 every time x is +5. It's weird phrasing, I agree, but yeah. You still got it wrong. What did you put, Mark? What did you put? Okay, very to the power of, rate maybe, the word rate. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, any questions with that, guys? Hopefully that gave you a little good multiple choice practice. I figured this one to switch it up a little bit, and it's not just me talking the whole time or us going over them on one at a time. Hopefully it gave you a good little practice. These questions, if you were curious, well, you could see right there. It's not a surprise anymore. These were from the January 2016. So I'll post these. Like I said, we have way more Regents than we could realistically do. So I'll be uploading like answer keys slowly. A few I want to still save in my back pocket to like practice with, but this was the January 2016. Some of you guys maybe even have seen this before. Wait, who told you that, John? John, who told you that? Wait, what? How do you have a video of it? Wait, you were listening? We did something for Miss Cahill with the 8th graders. They asked us to like read like a play or something. It was me, Miss Lee, and Mr. Sweeney. How was my acting? 723. Was my acting good? It's horrible? How was it horrible? I thought it was good. When did I mess up? I didn't mess up. Whatever. I didn't like study for it. I did it on the spot. All right. This is all great for the YouTube video. Hopefully, like I said, this gave you some good multiple choice practice. We have one more session tomorrow. We'll see if we can squeeze anything else in. I'll talk to Mr. Nello, but yeah, we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I was the devil. Kind of a fitting character choice. Okay. Let me stop recording.